loading and waiting to go with
Sorry about
your
that.
recording in progress. Okay. So
We're not used
there
to
were all
being
these
recorded.
ships waiting inside of the clouds or something like that, ready to attack. And they were all listening to make sure that everybody was in place. And so what they call militarily the order of battle was being read off. And so I'm channel flipping, I'm half asleep, and I look and I realize that's me doing the order of battle. And I can't remember the job. I can't remember the name of the show. I don't remember the session. And then I was luckily reminded by somebody else, I did it at Magnitude 8 many years ago. But again, it's one of those things where it just says announcer. Because if you have a character whose name is, Skull Cleaver, that you remember that. But, third delivery man from the left, no, that doesn't stick out on your mind.
Are there any Mob Psycho 100 fans in the room?
Any Mob Psycho 100? Shaking heads.
Great. How about Hunter x Hunter?
I've seen a couple episodes of it. Yeah.
Okay. Like I remember I remember doing Benolt. I remember doing Kazul, and I was really excited to see those on Toonami. In fact, the night that Benolt, the episode of his aired, it was like the night before my birthday in like 2017. And Kyle Abear, the voice of Gohan and DBZ and Ryu and Street Fighter, it was kind of sweet of him. He stayed up to watch that with me to see how that came out. But what I didn't expect was I remember getting like a tweet or something from a fan who's like, "Hey, kick-ass job as Namdu." And I was like, "Who the hell's Namdu?" And he was this this pudgy guy who just kind of gets blown up by Genthru, and that's really all that happens. So I forgot about that one. That was a little surprise, I guess.
Sure.
Every once in a while, someone will come up to me at a convention and I'll be at the autograph table, and they want to hear you do the voices, and they're looking at the pictures. They want to buy things. Somebody brought up a movie for me to sign, and I remembered having done it a long, long time ago. But I didn't know what the character's name was.
Oh.
I just needed to be reminded, because we do so many of these things. Like John talked about a whole bunch of characters just on one show. We will just go on and on and on. I did a character, or I should say about 15 characters on a series called Mummy Nanny. And the director told me later on, you could have done every character in that show. I was Frankenstein, I was Dracula, I was a guy in a waiting room who had a cold, talking about carpeting and boring the heck out of everybody in the waiting room. It was just one after another. I just kept coming up with all these different voices. But ask me about any of those. I just did the lead character of Uncle Ankh and Frankenstein and the guy with the cold. If they were to come up to me and say, "Oh, that was a great job when you did that zookeeper," I'd go like, "I don't remember the zookeeper."
Awesome. Any audience questions? Do you do any impersonations of famous people?
Oh, a couple. On a cartoon that's not here in the States, even though we record it in the States, it's playing out in like Australia and some other places. I made it a game once they realized I could do other voices rather than the one they initially booked me on, to see how many celebrity impressions I could fit in. So I remember I did rest in peace, but Gilbert Gottfried as like some kind of a chicken. Just like, "Excuse me, would you mind getting off of my head?" There was a moose that was H. John Benjamin. Like, "Wow, there's a party in my mouth and I've gone to heaven. Hey, Louise, are you gonna help out on the grill at all?" Or it's Bob's Burgers. What else? There was another. I kept fighting to fit a Werner Herzog impression into that show, and I finally did at the end. And like the director actually got mad at me at one point. He's like, "Can you stop trying to fit this old guy into our cartoon?" I'm like, "But I really want to do Werner Herzog. If you listen to the sound of the director, he's scratching his nails on the chalkboard." But I eventually did get the Werner Herzog again. So yeah, I've done stand-up and stuff, and that was, again, it's kind of what led me to looking into this, was realizing I could kind of change how I sound a bit, and yeah, it's been a fun hobby of mine. You don't get to hear that too much in anime because, again, we don't want to stray off the beaten path too much. But I'll tell you, speaking of impressions, One role I forgot to mention at the beginning that I'm really proud of that I got to do is Krang for Smite from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
I actually studied under Pat Fraley, his original voice actor, who kind of taught me how to do the voice in teaching, in teaching his classes in his own technique. It sort of taught me how to do Krang. So when I got to do that one, that was just a dream come true because it was like a character that I grew up watching. Like, well, what a wonderful time to the planet. Not really a celebrity per se, but he's certainly a celebrity in the voiceover world. And
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I only do a couple of them. And unfortunately, typically the ones I do have been dead so long, hardly anybody knows who they are, So they'll say, well, that's an interesting character voice. Well, it's so-and-so from such and such. And they go, huh, part of being my age is you start seeing a lot of things you go passing out of existence, Yeah. But I did do an interesting one for a cartoon. This was back when I think we were still at Saban. And my character was a little gangster guy. He was one of the typical thing. He's a short little guy and his muscle is this big, huge guy, but they're always dumb, And so I was the boss and they said, okay, well, this takes place in the South. And we need to have this, maybe we're going to go with a gangster, but we have to make it Southern. And I ran it through my mind for a few seconds and I thought, okay. What I want to do is one of the most famous gangsters of all time. Because, a man who doesn't take care of his family is not a man. And now I say Marlon Brando, people go, oh, But I decided to do that. So I went ahead and I went with the Marlon Brando voice. But they said he was from the South. So I started to do Marlon Brando like this, with the Southern with that. And so I mixed that in there. So I got the impression in to make it more interesting for the adults who were listening. But I also made him Southern as that. And the director was just pleased as punch with that. Beyond that, of course, and rest in peace would the Sean Bloody Connery. But again, it's not much call for this sort of thing anymore.
I used to wrestle as Trump. I don't know if that counts. I wrestled as Donald Trump for Freak Show Wrestling for several years.
Oh,
that was a lot of fun. The promos were fun just because,
when Mexico sends its luchadors, folks, they're not sending the best. Some of them have good drop kicks, I assume.
Any questions from the audience?
I'm still hung up on the wrestling impression. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I wrestle as well. The character I've been doing the last couple of years has been for Wrestling Pro Wrestling in Burbank. I've been doing Ricotta Flair.
Yeah.
The guy who's a serial man on that show just came to me. We'd been working together on Freak Show Wrestling out in Vegas for a while, and he was like, "Hey, how's your Ric Flair?" And I was like, "It's pretty good, woo!" So he told me that they had this idea. He's like, "It's gonna be Ric Flair, but his head is like a tub of ricotta cheese, and like the cheese is coming out, and that's what makes his hair." And I was like, "All right, why not?" So we did that. It got over like gangbusters, and I'm happy to say I have the 2 longest title reigns in that company for WPW, which you can watch every month on Twitch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Questions for Paul. You said you had a background in opera. How does that? Do you work that into your voice acting at all?
Well, I've done a couple of things where I've sung for the project. That's rather uncommon. But I have done that where they've called upon me to sing, and then I bring my bass baritone and the power to it, and they all look at me like, first of all, none of the characters are supposed to sound like they're trained singers, but it's kind of like, I can't help it.
Yeah.
Where it really comes into play, though, is with the use of the voice and the support. The way I use my voice, and I can do Kurama, the nine-tailed demon fox, for hours and hours, because of the training I've had as a singer and as a speaker. But I began, before I ever had any speech classes, I was singing again in the opera company and doing musical theater and so on and so forth. And that's where I trained myself. And then once I had the speech training and the accent and dialect training, all of that played into it, having the support, having the breath control, having the power. So that comes in on a technical aspect. I rarely ever actually get to do any singing. And that's okay with me too.
I offered because there was a time and a place where people would they would actually go back and dub not just the shows, but they would also localize the opening songs. So I went to Mami Okada over at Bang Zoom and asked if that was ever, if there could ever be more opportunities to use the singing. But it's I don't know if it's just trying to adhere to being more pure to the source material or if it's a budget thing, but they don't really do that too much anymore. The only time I ever really got to sing an anime was on Fully Coolly Progressive. In the background there were a couple of songs where there's one particular episode where they're in a bar or a tavern or something, and I just remember it was like on her motorbike, like, they were singing about Haruko. So,
Right.
but that's the only time I've really ever gotten the chance.
I did remember one that I would bring up because it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever done. And I can't remember the
JoJo's
name
Bizarre.
of the show. It should have been in JoJo's, but it wasn't. I was playing a big character who was like a sumo wrestler. And I don't know, I tell people this, don't try to figure it out because it made sense to the Japanese. That's a good thing to remember when you're working on Japanese animation. My character, for some weird reason, in the middle of an argument, broke into his version of Camptown Ladies.
Okay.
So right in the middle of the scene, for no apparent reason, the director couldn't tell, I couldn't, I suddenly went, Camptown Ladies, sing this song, do-da, do-da. And I started doing a little dance. And then went right back to the dialogue. To this very day, when I see the director, I just go, well, remember, we can always do Camptown Ladies, sing this song, So a sumo wrestler singing Camptown Ladies, one of the weirder moments in my career.
Goodness.
Wow. That's great. What would your dream role be, like, for any anime or video game or show?
I kind of got to do it. I never really thought, there was a time that I didn't know, I just wasn't getting a lot of work. And I didn't, when I got the ball rolling again, it was like grateful for anything and everything, right? I've gotten to do 2 Ninja Turtle related projects. Actually, I was Leonardo in Death Battle when he fought the Red Ranger. So, you're the monster for trying to steal my pizza, or whatever he said. And Krang was another one that I was really proud of. Moving forward, are there any others that would I would definitely like to have the chance to work on more adult animation, something like an Archer, that's just so dang witty and smart, or like Futurama is another one that comes to mind as far as just how genius the scripts are.
Yeah, that one's coming out soon, isn't it?
Yeah. So those are, some that would be neat. But I mean anything that passes along my desk, or my microphone rather, I'm really happy to work on. So
Absolutely. There are the dream shows and things like that. I would love to have worked on Castlevania.
yeah.
I auditioned for the role of Alucard.
Wow.
Yeah, I was not booked into that. John and I were watching it, and I said, and I have absolutely positively no problem with the actor that played the role. I thought he was brilliant. That doesn't mean I wouldn't want to take a shot at it myself. Also, if we were to do Bleach again, and I'm sorry, more Naruto. Again, brilliant job by the actor. I have no problem with what he does, but I would love to have played Madara. Terrific character, terrific lines, all of that. And again, all kudos to the actor that did it. I'm not saying I could have done better the way people do. But it's just when it's a good role and the dialogue's good and you love the way the character fits into the story. Yeah, most actors want to jump in and I'd like to take a shot at that,
Yeah.
I'll say that if we ever end up doing like a Gujitsu movie, I would be pleased as punch not to be replaced by Chris Pratt.
For sure. Yep. You and a lot of other people, I think.
Tsunami Flex. Oh, I can't do it anymore because Chris Pratt wants to. Okay, he's already Garfield. I thought. Okay, that's fine. Whatever.
Well, we've, now that they're going to be doing new Digimon, they said they're replacing everybody. And I have friends that are talking about how livid they are about the whole thing. First of all, it has nothing to do with us. We don't have a choice. And those roles don't belong to me. I did 23 different voices, 23 different characters on Digimon, and I don't have rights to a single one of them. So if they want to recast, that's great. But I will say this much, if anybody else is going to be cast to be played by Wormmon, sleep with one eye open. That one belongs to me. I will track you down and, they won't even find your body, okay? Because that rule does belong to me. I own Wormmon. So
Nice.
I don't have any strong feelings about the matter, but
For sure.
I'd like to revisit the guys that I did in Pokemon Masters. Actually, that game, there's some dialogue at the beginning, but a lot of the stuff we recorded was like, oh, like not a lot of. It wasn't really dialogue intensive. So it would be cool to be Factory Head Thornton again and Brawley as well. So I mean that just another thing that would be fun to throw out to the universe and see what happens.
For sure. Yeah. Like there's always new Pokemon stuff coming out. So who knows?
Well, I'm not hard to find.
Yeah.
So
still in LA.
yeah, still here a little while longer. Housing costs keep going up.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. We've got about like 10 minutes, I guess. We can go a little longer too if anyone has any more questions. But
yeah.
How does a company like Walt Disney get voice actors? Did you go through an agent or they have?
It's too bad I can't see them. Oh well.
yeah, we're gonna work on that maybe. The question was, well, first of all, I'm not sure if you guys worked with Walt Disney at all, but the question was, do you know like how companies like Walt Disney would they go through an agent, or how would they get people?
I was hoping he knew. Darn it.
Yeah.
Really? Do you know somebody at Disney? Maybe
Yeah.
look, here's my Here's my
Yeah.
business card. If you have,
Right.
That's the whole reason I hang out with Paul, is I thought he knew, being in Kingdom.
Yeah, I think generally just like how do like a studio go through and find actors? Do they go through?
It's
Yeah.
it's a little different. The only thing I've really done for Disney was there was a show I did called Beyblade Burst Rise, where I played this announcer and his name was just Another. Like not like he was an ancillary non-name guy, but like even in the Japanese, he's calling himself Another. So that aired on Disney XD. And I was really surprised because that came through a studio that I didn't even audition for it. I was autocast on it. It came from the same studio that I do a lot of anime with. But it was just kind of a different. I think with some of these streaming services, they're trying to add so much content that sometimes things will go a different way than the more conventional means of how they would cast a show. I don't know. You could try sneaking on the lot. That works for some people, maybe. No,
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
yeah. But if it does work, you didn't hear it from us. Okay.
Right.
As far as Disney goes, I've had kind of a strange history with them. I've been anything from an accent and dialect coach on a movie of the week. I've done ADR, automated dialogue replacement. In other words, Walla and bits and parts and looping on TV movies, a couple of them. And then, of course, Kingdom Hearts. So with I guess I would say Kingdom Hearts Square Enix. It's always hard to tell which way they go and who's doing what and who's making what decisions or whatever. But by and large, everybody thinks of it as Disney with Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
But
Could it be because Mickey, Donald, and Goofy are in it? Could that have anything to?
that might have a little bit, just a little bit. I'm still waiting for Daisy Duck to show up with a submachine gun or something. But so.
Have your
But,
laugh, Xehanort, foolish
yes.
apprentice of a foolish man.
That's right. Ansem the Wise, you look pathetic.
Any
So-
empire you would have built would have been an empire of ignorance.
And as far as that goes, the casting process has changed a little bit because I've had many of the same experiences where if somebody just contacts me, it'll be either the director or my agent, unfortunately, just passed away recently, would go through my agent and just say they like your voice that you used for this and that. So bring that in. There's one director that I've worked with for a long time, and that's Bob Buchholz. He was contacted by the client, as we call them, the owner of the show. And they said, we want Paul St. Peter to do the voice that does blah, 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 blah. And Bob's way of communicating that to me was, yeah, they called me, they want you to do that voice. And we all know what that voice is as Kurama, the nine-tailed demon fox, and variations of it.
Right.
So having a reputation of being sounding the way I do and having a lot of people out there that are not only the ones who write the checks, but they're also fans of the work we do. Can we get him? You know, that'd be great. You know?
Yeah, my friend Stephanie Nadolny was the original voice of OKKO, you know, back when it was Lakewood Plaza Turbo, and she wasn't really actively auditioning for anything in Los Angeles. Ian Jones Cordy, I believe his name is, the creator, just kind of sought her out, found her, and brought her in. Ultimately, I guess there was something with the move from Texas to Los Angeles, and they opted to go with a sound alike for the remainder of that series. But I mean, my point is just really the only answer I can give to anybody is just, you know, keep plugging away at it and hope you just keep moving up the rungs of the ladder and get yourself represented, get yourself in a position where they trust you with the opportunity to audition for those kinds of projects, and then do your best if and when that time comes.
That's the best you can do is by all means, like I said before, your conduct and your performance are those things that are under your control at all time. And so being ready, that's the performance part. Someone calls you and says, we need you for this and that voice. You know, I'm known for doing so many voices, but also the accents and the dialects and speaking other languages. And I have to be sharp and ready to go all the time. When I talk in conventions and I'm doing my voice creation and my voice maker panel, I tell people that as an actor, you need to have all of these things in your front pocket. Okay. If I was working in a session with John and I'd say,
God
okay, John,
forbid.
no, I haven't. It's already happened. I'm still scarred. I can't sleep at night. It's awful, you know.
Sorry.
So, well, you know, art imitates life. But anyway, but if I said to John, okay, John, for this take, I need you to be, you know, Bernie Sanders. He's got it. It's right there. It's ready to go. I was in a session where unexpectedly, and I will swear until my dying day that the person that cast me said, they want you to do a French accent. Okay, ready. It's one of my best accents. I get there and I go to the podium and there's the lines of dialogue, not in a French accent, in French. After I did those scenes, those lines and whatever in French, I was about to take a break and I heard somebody say, oh, is French man also Spanish man? And I turned around and I went up to the producer. I said, okay, what else? I said, well, yeah, we have one line in Spanish. And I'm the only one in the room that speaks Spanish too. And so, so like I say, having these things in your front pocket, no, you can't learn to speak every language. Of course not. You know, if they said we need German, man, I wouldn't be their guy, you know. But being sharp and being ready and staying in practice with all of these things and being able to do these voices, when you're doing a TV show or a movie and you have 7 people in the room handling all of the background sounds, and the scene up on the screen now has got 50 people at a party. Okay, so the 7 of us have to cover that. So they're going to do 5 different tracks in a row. And I was in one for a TV show and they had 5 characters that they wanted me to do, one different one on each take. It's that kind of thing. As an actor, you have to be absolutely prepared for that stuff at all times.
Great.
Yar.
Let's see. I always like asking this question. Is there any question that you've never been asked, but you like want to be asked at conventions or anything by fans?
What was it like being the referee on Hunter x Hunter? Um,
We're all wondering about that one, John. It's
Gone
not.
has used back. We will now resume the match. I wish I had more opportunities to speak on Cells at Work Code Black. I had such a great time working with Wendy Lee on that on AC 1677, the character I played on that. Just I remember going to, I don't know, just stuff where like the chance to talk more about the characters and stuff sometimes is always a delight, because it's you don't really get any sort of feedback in the booth except from your director and your engineer. So it's different than if you're doing a stage performance or stand up or something like that, where the feedback is instantaneous with applause or
Right.
God forbid boos or something like that. Um,
Or they throw things at me, but
oh, I know. John, how come your Streamly shop isn't open more often? That would be a good one. But I don't know. I just, let it happen organically as far as whatever people want to know. I enjoy the positive exchange of energy that comes from doing these kinds of events.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I enjoy very much the interaction. When I tell people when we're sitting at our tables, I said, you all know us because of our dialogue in the shows, but actually hearing us do the voice and talk about the voice live is a different animal, As far as questions I would like to be asked, I wish people would ask me about a show that has never aired, unfortunately. So they can't ask. But it's a terrific show called The Adventures of Zoe and Charlie. And it was a dynamite show, but nobody can ask me about it because I would dearly love to talk about I Was the Sage, which was the narrator in every episode, and some of the cutest, sweetest animation you've ever seen. Funny, funny, funny stuff. And the actors, Joe Ochman, did the voice of the horse, and it's some of the funniest, craziest stuff I've ever heard. I'd like to be able to share those stories, but
Yeah.
nobody can ask me because the show never made it on the air anywhere.
yeah, that's always kind of a pain in the butt, where like some of the best work you've done is auditions that only the casting director heard. I was up for the part of Frieza for Dragon Ball Super.
Mhm.
Both when Bang Zoom was doing the first two seasons just for Toonami Asia, and also
Yep.
for the version that most people have heard when Chris got sick, bless his heart, and may he rest peacefully.
Right.
That would have been a fun one. I guess it was Mr. Mills who got that one, but it's cool to say I was in the running for it at least.
Yeah, for sure.
So go ahead.
The question was,
Delightful.
the question was, have you ever thought about going into film acting?
Oof. Yeah. I've actually done a number of independent films, and I've got an on-camera agent as well. I must confess that I haven't pursued that as diligently in the last couple of years as maybe I could have. It's not like I was turning down auditions, but I could have been, I think, a little bit more proactive with my marketing. But there's some films I've done that made it as far as Sunset, like Donut Shop Hero was in the official selection, I suppose. I was up for Best Actor in San Diego for a short I did called Crowd Sorcery that I also kind of contributed to some of the writing on. So that was a lot of fun. Usually a lot of the films I would do were like from the 48-hour film project, because it's easy to allocate just 2 days, and it's going to get done because they're trying to win a contest.
Oh, yeah.
And I've done some on-camera stuff as well, like for television. I did a show that was shot when I was still living in San Diego called The X List. Just like a day player, did a karaoke singer for that show. Know Your Meme, I've done that one. And what was cool was we actually shot that in like Larry King's studio in Glendale. There was a couple of pilots I did. One was called My Profile Story. It was kind of like, this was back in the MySpace days. It was done by the Fine brothers, Ben and Rafi Fine. And this was like if your MySpace page came to life, kind of like Toy Story, like had the toys come to life when you're not looking. And another one that I was really proud of, I started in a pilot that you can still see online. The show's called The Cast Members. And if any of you have ever worked in a movie theater, you know how crazy that can be, like that sort of experience. So this was kind of, I wish to heck this had gotten picked up. We did like an episode and a half of it. We tried to do like a Kickstarter thing to get more of those out for you. I think Aaron's been developing a movie for it, so there's still some life in that project. Whether I'll be a part of it moving forward, that's up to him. We'll see.
Yeah, I've done several TV shows, comedies, and whatnot. If you look very carefully at Tim and Eric's awesome show, I did 3 episodes there. One of them you wouldn't probably see me. The other 2 I was prominently featured because of the facial expressions I do. The director and producer liked them a lot, so they would focus the camera on me as a reaction to something that was going on somewhere else. I did an independent film called Charlie Thistle, and it was one of those, I think it was not a 48-hour, but a 2-week project. And the directors go into a pool for this, and then they just get the film that they get. And my director's name was Bragi Shoot. And Bragi was very happy to get this one because it was a fun storyline with crazy, crazy stuff. And I don't know if it's ever going to play any place, but I did something called I Am Not Adam, where I got to play a homeless man. And I had a scene. This was guerrilla filmmaking, which means you're shooting all over the city with no permits, with no permission, no anything. That's what they call guerrilla filmmaking. So it would be meet in a parking lot at 1 o'clock. And yeah, so I being a stage actor, I knew that I would need to provide my own solutions because I knew there wouldn't be any makeup there. And so I brought my stuff, my homeless outfit, because I created a costume just for that reason, because I've done 3 different projects as a homeless guy. And I brought a cigarette lighter and a cork. And the actor and the director were both looking at me very curiously. I lit the cork on fire, blew it out, and then started applying the smudge to my face. That was my makeup. And they looked at me and I said, well, if you want solutions, hire a stage actor.
Yep.
Because we know what to do because nobody's around to help us. There's no money, no budget, you know.
Sometimes that can work against you, though. Did I tell you the story about the baking flour recently? Oh God. Okay, really quick here. So they were having me do a different character for WPW. It was like the 2 Men Gang's dad, like his deadbeat dad, right? And as I'm leaving the house, I was gonna pick up like some white hairspray from like Party City or something. But someone who was visiting said, hey, why don't you do an old dater trick and just put like baking flour in your hair? That'll make you look older. I'm like, okay. So it works, you know, for the most part, but I leave the bag in the trunk, just a Ziploc bag of white powder. And
Oh, we already can get some images going here, can't we?
yeah. So as I'm coming back from a photo shoot with my band, that's another thing. I'm in a band where we sing about dinosaurs, by the way. I get pulled over because one of my my headlights had gone out, and it's you know, it was an older car at the time and all that. And so like, do you mind if? And I'm looking like, you know, I'm a kind of rock starred out, so I fit the description of maybe somebody they're looking for. Like, do you mind if we search your vehicle? I'm like, not at all. You got any weapons in there? No, go ahead. So he comes around the corner with a big Ziploc bag full of powder. I'm like, oh shit. It's like, you want to tell me what this is? I'm like, yeah, I think I should. So it's like it's baking flour. He's like, oh really, baking flour? And I want to tell him, like, you think I can afford a 2-gallon bag of cocaine? But I don't tell him that because I don't want to get, you know, shot or arrested. I don't want to be a smart ass.
Yeah.
The
police have no sense of humor about that stuff, by the way.
No,
they don't think any of that's funny when you tell them that stuff.
No, and so I'm trying to. He's like, why the heck would you have that? I'm like, because I'm an actor and I was doing a part where I was trying to. Somebody told me I would look older if I put baking flour in my hair, and he's like, and there's one guy sitting next to me that makes sure I don't run or whatever. Like at this point, there's like 6 cops, and goes just for little old me, right? And he's playing good cop, and he's trying to just ask me about my life and stuff. He's like, "Oh, so you're an actor?" I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "You've been in anything I would have seen?" And I look over to my car, and as there's 5 people like rummaging through it, I'm like, "Yeah, I feel like any chance I had of impressing you was kind of
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to bring solely the good name of Pokemon Masters and have TMZ show up. I don't really want to.
Yeah.
Sorry." He was like, "Oh, you're in a band? Where can I go watch your band?" I'm like, "You're practically arresting me right now. I don't want you to, you don't get to rummage through my Honda and then drop by the show and be like, 'Hey, good set, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, you got any more of that baking flour?'"
Yeah, it's not like the stories, on TV where first the cop finds out of all this stuff, then figures out you're okay and calls your ID. And no, there's no wants, there's no warrants. So, can I send you a demo? Or do you want to read a script?
Yeah, no kidding.
It doesn't really happen like that. Okay.
he's well, I told I'm Kyle Carrazza, who's the creator of Mighty Magiswords. I told him about this because I thought he'd get a laugh out of it. He's like, "You should have told him about the time that you did background for Space Jam 2. I was like, "Oh geez, I'd rather admit to the cocaine." No thanks. Yeah, arrest me. Can you introduce me to Porky Pig? Just arrest me, man. Just
Right.
arrest me.
or shoot me, whichever is easier.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
Well, how do you guys feel about one more question, and then we can?
please.
All right,
that'll be
any-
fine. Yeah,
Sorry to go off on a tangent there.
it's okay. I mean, these are the stories. It's part of where we live, man.
Sure. Yeah.
Are they friends?
The guy was there, like the guy who suggested to it. He came back to the house, and I was like, he's like, "Hey, you're a little bit late getting back." I'm like, "Yeah, hey, thanks for that great suggestion on makeup tips."
Yeah. All right.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's
Please.
all right.
Are they friends or have you met any famous actors?
The question is, are you friends with? If you've met any other famous actors?
Oh yeah. I because of the impressions, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I was up for Dana Carvey, who you all remember from Saturday Night Live and such. He had a
Yep.
show he was putting together called First Impression with Dana Carvey, and I was in the runnings for that.
Mhm.
So I and like with Paul, I don't have as many modern impressions, I suppose, as I should have. I got to come in and work with Dana in front of the network executives, and I got paid for doing so, but I didn't actually make it onto the show. I don't know how to do a Jay-Z impression. I was doing like John Lovitz and stuff.
Yeah.
But he loved that. I actually they'd asked if I could do any of Dana's characters to Dana, so I chose Church Lady. So it was like he was asking me, like interviewing me as if I was Dana. It was a weird sort of thing, but it was like, "Well, Dana Carvey having your own little show. You want people to worship you on TV. Who else bears false idolism? Satan." But
Isn't that special?
yeah, that's special. But he really liked the John Lovitz, like, "Oh yeah, that's the ticket." Yeah. So he asked me, like, after the executives and everybody had left the room, he's like, "Hey, John, I really liked your John Lovitz. Do you think I could record it and send it to John?" Yeah, I guess that'd be all right. Yeah. So he's like, "I'm just gonna feed you some lines and you just go ahead and do them." I'm like, "No problem." All right. Hey, John, I just want you to know that Dana's funnier. Me. I just want you to know that Dana's funnier. Ahem. He's like, "Oh, that's great. That's great. It's great." And I'll say, "I think I might be gay." I'm like, "I don't want it'll be totally fine. Just do it. Just do it." "Oh, and by the way, I think I might be gay." And I just would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in John Lovitz's house when he goes to open his email, like, email from Dana. I wonder what that could be. Plays it and he calls up Lauren Michaels and gets me banned right away. Who else? If there's any wrestling fans, I've gotten to referee a match with Jake the Snake Roberts. I've opened for Rob Van Dam when he's done stand-up. Several times I've opened for him, which was fun. Other famous actors on the X list, I believe the star on that was in Twilight, Bella something. It's been so long. This was like 2009.
Oh, Kristen Stewart.
Not Kristen Stewart,
No.
Although she was Kristen Stewart was Veronica Mars, right?
Mm, That's Kristen Bell.
Okay, Kristen Bell. I almost bum rushed by accident. Because when my career was kind of starting out and I was in San Diego, they were shooting Veronica Mars down there, and I didn't know that they called background action different from principal action. So my timing was off as we're like crossing by each other, and she like kind of had to sidestep me, and then like 3 lawyers came up to talk to me about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, no, you can't. She's the star. You can't touch. So that was one. A bunch. It's kind of neat who you get to run into sometimes and make friends with. If there's any Guar fans, Techno Destructo from Guar and I wrestled once.
yep.
Yeah, cool guy. I like Hunter a lot. He's got some fun road stories, but you have to coax them out of him. Paul, you take one while I think of if there's any others off the top of my head.
Yeah, being from another epoch in history, one of my students, as a matter of fact, he passed away about 10 years ago. Some of you might remember One Day at a Time. Reruns there. That was Bonnie Franklin.
Yep.
Yeah, Bonnie was a student of mine. She worked with me on and off for about 20 years. So we were pretty good friends. I met them during a convention a couple of years back. And if those of you who know Black Sails and Lost in Space, I got to kind of hang out for the weekend and have a good laugh with Zach McGowan and Toby Stevens. And Zach and I are both crazy about barbecuing. And I actually sent him on Twitter, I sent a copy of my seasoning mix that I created myself. And his wife answered back and said, we haven't used it yet, but we're going to. We're going to go ahead and, go barbecue us, stuff like that. But it was a kick because Zach and I were talking about this, and we were talking about smokers, and we were talking about seasonings, and I use charcoal, and he uses gas grills and stuff like that. And Toby was looking at us and watching us, and he started laughing, and he says, I can't believe there's 2 grown men talking about food like this. And I said, Toby, this is a passion. It's, I want to say, don't knock it till you try it, but I don't know if he ever barbecues anything, but that's a kick. And again, they're not close friends of mine, but we would recognize each other.
Sure.
Almost got in a fight with Chekhov from Star Trek.
I remember you told me about this.
Yeah, I was working a delivery gig, and it was I knock on this on the house. I think it's supposed to be like, hello. And I was like, hey, I'm here with your order. I can't hear you. And I think it's just like, it reminds me of my old sales days. It's just something people would say to shoo you off their porch, right? And I'm like, no, I'm here with your order. I can't hear you. And I'm getting kind of, annoyed by the situation. So I go back to my car to get on the phone and double check the address and everything. This guy comes out of the house. He's like, hey. It's like, hey. What's going on? I was like, I'm just trying to deliver something. I think I got the wrong address. He's like, you sure? And I'm like, that, like, something about him saying you sure really started to tick me off. So I almost fired back, like, yeah, I'm sure, And then the guy walks up who'd actually ordered the product or whatever, and he was you know who that was, right? I'm like, heck no, I don't even know who you are. So that was Walter Koenig, I believe it's. Yeah, I was like, that's Chekhov.
Yeah.
I just got in a fight with friggin' Chekhov. Oh my god. Well, tune in next week when I mistake Brent Spiner's mansion for a Walmart, Sorry to be in your kitchenette, Commander Data. My bad. Are you a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure at all?
Yeah.
It's a weird town. It's a weird town.
Yeah, you never really know, because I was on the opposite side of that, as a so-called celebrity moment. I was at this craft beer place down on Ventura Boulevard. Haven't been there since before the pandemic. And I was watching something on the TV and I'm trying their food and stuff like that. And there's this girl sitting next to me. And we both, for some reason, looked at the TV at the same time. And it was one of those Tuesday night things that people do where they actually have crosswords and they have competitions or something. And we both said the answer at the same time, laughed a little bit and looked at each other, and then ha ha ha. And that was that. And then she said, okay. And I was wearing a wristband from Naruto.
Yeah.
And this is a Norse thing with a wolf on it, but she kind of flicks at it like this. She goes, I like that, but do you know anything about it? And I said, oh, you mean Naruto? I said, well, actually, I work on Naruto. She goes, no, you don't. And I said, yes, I'm Kurama, the nine-tailed demon fox. What? And she almost fainted. She goes, this is like a Hollywood moment. And I went, oh, okay. I guess, all right, I guess sometimes some people are going to recognize that. But we're not, faces. I'm not Brad Pitt, not someone.
There's some anonymity left to it. Yeah.
Yeah, you really have to let people know what you do. And then, when I go to Kingdom Hearts, I go to a fair or something like that, and I'm wearing a Kingdom Hearts emblem, people will see that and they'll ask me about it. And I will always be pushing the label and putting the product out there. So I said, I was a pirate, and I said, does you know the voices well? And she said, yeah. I said, does you know the voices really well? She goes, yeah. I said, does you know who I really am? And she looked at me for a second, and I said, remember, nothingness is eternal. She's calling her friends over here, but you made my weekend. And I said, now you know what Zemnis does on his weekends. He goes to the Renaissance Fair. Arrgh. So those things kind of come up, but you have to actually tell people what you do, because they don't, it's extremely rare they would see your face and know what you do as a voiceover actor.
I've been in 2 video games with Elvira. Like Elvira's Monster Stack and Match was the first video game I ever worked on. And then when I did Pain back on the PlayStation 3, they ported on David Hasselhoff, George Takei.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
I'm surprised I didn't get in a fight with him. And Elvira, Flavor Flav, and Elvira was Andy Dick. So I'm at Comic-Con International in San Diego, and I run into Elvira, and I'm trying to tell her this. I was Jarvis, and I was also like the werewolf in this other game. And she just kind of kept, she's funny. She just kept accusing me of like staring at her 8x10s the whole time. She's like, my eyes are up here. And I'm like, look, some people can take a compliment. I'm trying to let you know I enjoyed your work. And she's funny. She's cool.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming to talk with us. Can you let us know where we can find you?
Yes, North Hollywood. No, actually, see if I can get it in the shot. Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that worked out. Yeah, excuse me. On Instagram, it's the John Allen, TheJonAllen. And on Twitter, it's KINGJONALLEN. And I wish I could have been there in person, you guys. Things just didn't work out this year with COVID restrictions and stuff. But if anybody's interested, I am doing the autographed 8x10 thing. I've got a Streamly shop that if you go to either my Twitter or PortCon Maine's Twitter, the link is right there. I've got some new ones up. We got one for Critter from Sword Art Online and Krang from Ninja Turtles / Smite that I'm really proud of. So have a look. It's there if you want it. And then this would actually be my first time doing a Streamly signing. So I guess in addition to me having it signed and sent to you, we do a broadcast where you actually see us do it. So there's some authenticity there. So yeah, keep in touch. I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Streamily.com, same thing. If you go there, they have all of the actors listed. So just kind of scroll or swipe or whatever it takes. You'll find my stuff there with my pictures too. And you can order there. They organize that for you rather nicely. If you want such and such a thing written on the picture, we'll do that for you. Yeah. So they take care of all that part for you. I'm on Facebook at the Paul St. Peter fan site. And for Instagram, I'm at, see, I have so many, I start to lose track of them. The real Paul St. Peter, and I think Twitter is the same thing. But if you look for me, you'll find my bio picture. You'll find all those things there. by all means, check out through Streamily. Our shops are open. You can see a
Yeah,
bunch of
it's
characters
just
we've done.
streamily.com/John Allen, I guess, for mine. I imagine yours is pretty similar.
Yeah, and streamily.com, it'll just bring you to the to the site, and it has all of the people that they have on there, so you could bring up anybody, but ours are on there, and probably the same thing. Yeah, streamily.com, Paul St. Peter, etc., etc. But all of that stuff is very accessible. You can find that very, very quickly and easily.
And while you guys do that, I'm gonna go see the 35th anniversary of the G.I. Joe animated movie tonight, I think, because they're showing that. That'll be fun.
See, this guy knows how to live. He knows how to live, I'll tell you.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great rest of your day.
Thank you. And so your name on here says Julie, but you said it was Jane, is that right?
Jade, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Julie's computer.
No worries.
Oh, okay. Does Julie know you took it from her house? We have a crime in progress. John, we're witnesses. Oh my God.
I got priors. I can't.
Yep.
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
that baking powder thing, it's still
Exactly. Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, all of you, the audience in the background.
Yeah,
we
thanks
can't
for being
see.
here.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for doing, even though remote, a lot of it, being able to put Port Con, Maine back on the map. And let's keep working and get this stuff back in person again.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
will.
Attaboy.
Thank you so much. Hello.